What's going on, y'all? This is Jeff from Sound Advice, and in today's edition of Sound Advice, what we're going to get into is how to properly place our subwoofer for that optimal listening in our listening position. Okay, so if you are interested in learning how to properly place your subwoofer, please stay tuned as we get into how to position your subwoofer.
All right, let's talk about our subwoofer. And what I'm talking about with the subwoofer is a 2.1. So you have two monitors, which could, I'm going to use mine for an example. I have two-way monitors, which has the tweeter and an 8-inch. Okay. So then I have a sub, which is a 12-inch subwoofer. All right. And that's what I'm going to talk about is the sub. All right. And that's called a 2-to-1 system. You have two monitors, one sub. All right. Now, when we are trying to hear our bass, and remember we talked about room modes, right? This right here will give you room modes. This is not the optimal position to put your speaker in if you're critically listening, trying to mix. Okay, you will get added bass definitely in this corner, and you get added bass in this corner. And in this corner, that's where the bass would be loud. And you probably wouldn't hear anything, hardly any bass in your listening position. So what do you think you're going to be doing? You're going to be cranking up the bass. And then you're thinking, oh yeah, everything's fine. You put it in your car. What happens? Too much bass. Okay? Because you didn't have a good representation of what the bass was doing in the mix. So this is the worst position. This next position here, it's a little better, okay, as far as you'll hear a little more in this position, okay, but you're still too close to the wall, and you're still going to get a lot of build up around in the corners and stuff like that. That's why we talked about, using bass traps to absorb some of that. So, but you have it at a distance, so the bass could be still weak, and you still won't get that mix. And you see how it's sitting back, okay? Because now you're looking at phase issues that can happen. Okay, because everything is not reaching your ears at the same time. So you could have some phase issues going on, which you can't fix that with your polarity switch on the back of a sub, because most subs, even from your high-end subs to your affordable subs, they all have that phase switch, So, but still, it's not okay. It's not really okay, but then it is okay. You'll get a better representation, but not that great a representation. Okay, you still can have issues when you put it, when you take it out of your studio and transition it into the car, or transition it into your living room, or transition it at someone else's house or whatever. You're still not going to get a real great representation of your low end. Now, this is your most optimal, okay? Because you have where your bass could be in phase. Okay, it could be in phase, that everything is reaching your ears at the same time, and you get a better representation. Now, I'm not saying that it has to be dead smack in the middle. No. What you'll have to do is go to YouTube, put in low frequencies, and then you'll get videos that'll pop up, which will have like from 5 hertz all the way up to 150 hertz. Okay. And what you want to do is let that play. Okay. And you want to listen to that, and you want to be on your hands and knees. Okay. You got the bass playing. Okay. You got the sub activated. It's playing those frequencies. And once it start getting in the range where the bass really handles the frequencies, that which is normally like, say 35, maybe 32, that's where it'll start, and then by in the 60s it gets really, really nice sounding and stuff like that. But anyway, you want to hear it, and you want to crawl on your hands and knees. You want to crawl and listen for where the best response is. Okay. So the bass, it could be sitting here, but you're crawling in here, and you hear that over here, it sounds the strongest. Okay. That's where you want to place it at. That's where you want to put it at. And like I said before, remember, low frequencies are omnidirectional. Okay. And higher frequencies are directional. Okay. So we don't have to have that sub positioned perfectly for us to listen. The only thing we got to worry about is making sure that the phase is good. And then the way the phase will be good is you have to listen. So you have to get back in your position. Once you put that speaker in that sweet spot of the room, because every room got a sweet spot. And once you put in that sweet spot, then you want to listen. Then you want to get up, hit your polarity switch, flip it, go back, listen to it again. If it sounds thin, flip it back. Then if it sounds full, that's where you want to be. If it's not flipped and it sounds thin, then you want to flip it. You want to flip the phase. And then if it sounds full, leave it where it's at. Okay. But that's the best way to get a representation of what your low end is doing. Okay. Because in this position and in this position, you can have the kick and the bass guitar clashing. You got a real powerful 808, that's hitting in that upper, 100, 150, that, that boom, boom, you got it hitting up there, and you turning it, you turning things down because you think it's loud and it's not. Okay. So this is why we want to position our bass, our sub speaker in the position where it's going to, where the bass is the sweet spot of the bass. Okay. And then once we do that, then we put up some bass traps. I have foam bass traps put up. I got them from phonebymail.com. That's where I got them from. I got like 8 of them for $12. So I got those from phonebymail.com. I covered my corners to grab some of that. So, because I just didn't feel like, trying to make some bass traps, by hand. So I just said, I'm just going to go buy some. And like I said, phone by mail, they're decent with their prices on their phone. So that's what I have. But anyway, you want that. So you're still going to get bass buildup. I still get bass buildup, but it's not in my listening area. That's the key. In my listening area, I get my bass right every single time, because I'd have crawled on the floor and I put my speaker in the sweet spot. See, in that sweet spot. So I still get plenty of bass and all of that. And it's away from the corners and it's away from the walls. But that's the main thing, is get that speaker away from the walls. Even your monitors, get them away from the walls, because you don't want that a false representation of loudness. Okay, because that's what you'll get is a false representation of loudness. So this is the best way of the things that we talked about with acoustic panels, positioning your speakers correctly, and then positioning your bass correctly. These are the things that combat against room modes. Okay, because room modes will, they basically will be lying to you about what your mix need to what it don't need. It'll be lying to you. And that's why if you're struggling with trying to get what you need to get, if you're struggling and it's not translating, not what you're trying to get, but but it's not translating the way you want it to, this is the reason why. Because your speakers are too close to the wall. You don't have any absorption panels put up, and if you have a sub, it's in the wrong position. It's not positioned right. But what I told you, I know it sounds silly, but trust me, you crawl on the floor and you find the sweet spot. Okay. Now the other last thing that I just want to mention is that put your speakers on some isolation pad. Okay. And what you can do is go to sweetwater.com and type in your search isolation pads. Okay. And you'll get isolation pads that'll come up. You get all kind of brands, manufacturers, and all kind of designs of isolation pads. Okay. Isolation pads help with the vibration. Okay. And they help clear up your speaker in what you're hearing. So don't invest in them foam vibration pads. If all you have is enough money to get foam, don't get it. Keep saving your money to get you some good vibration, some isolation pads. I'm sorry, I'm saying vibration, but isolation pads. Because I paid for mine, like $149 at that time. That's what I paid for mine. And what they have like a rubber pad on it, a steel pad, and then the foam is at the bottom. Okay, and that's on my monitor. So that's 3 type of absorption off of the vibration that the speakers give. Okay, and trust me when I say you'll hear a night and day difference. You hear a night and day difference. Even with my sub, I put it on an isolation pad. And now I don't get the vibrations that would come off the walls and stuff like that. I don't hear that anymore. So that's another thing. So with the isolation pads, what they basically do is make the speaker feel that it's floating. Okay, because that's what a speaker wants to do. It wants to float. And that's what you want, because that's what's going to give you your best representation of what you need to hear in order to fix the mix the way it'll translate outside of the room. Okay, so I hope this has been helpful, and we will go back up top, do a closing, and I'll see y'all on the next one.
Well, all right. I hope this was very helpful and informative to you about how to place your subwoofer. One thing I just want to recap on is, that crawl method. Crawl around, look for that sweet spot, and put your speaker in that sweet spot. And also make sure that you keep your sub away from walls and the corner, because that will give you a false representation of how you perceive your bass. Okay, so put it in that sweet spot in that room, away from the walls, away from the corners, and then you'll get a better representation of what you hear. Okay, because that's very important for our mixes to be able to translate in other places, especially when we give it to a client as an MP3, their music as an MP3, because we don't know where they're going to be listening to their music. But we do know that we want everything to sound the way it's supposed to sound. So I'm glad that we got into this topic. I hope that you have gained a better understanding, and that I was able to present this in a manner that was able for you to be able to receive for that understanding. So if you like what you hear, please hit that like button. And if you just like this channel, please hit that subscribe button. And if you want to stay up to date on when I'm dropping videos, hit that notification bell as well. So this has been Sound Advice. This is Jeff, and I'll see you on the next one.